After the technical difficulties, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. I know you're deep in the spring season, so you taking the time this morning is really appreciated.
Well, don't worry about the technical difficulties. It's probably the shine off my bald head doing something to the computer. So that's on me.
That's why I wear a hat.
See, you're a very smart guy. No, it's thanks a lot for having me on, and it's been great to see all the other colleagues at D3, and really interesting. So yeah, delighted to speak with you.
Oh, thanks. So we're going to touch upon this, but we're going to touch upon your experience in MLS and all that stuff. But because, I don't get moments to shine anymore on the soccer field, I too was in MLS, and I too made an all-star game. And actually, little known fact is that I was actually the MVP of the all-star game. Except this one, and I have a trophy to prove it. So, but little known fact, I was the MVP of the 2001 MLS media game.
Right on.
And I will say it's not a reflection of my soccer abilities. It's probably a reflection of how bad the media is at playing the game. So.
Well, I don't know. Some of the reporters I know from the league would be very intense. So I think you can hold that with pride.
I do. I still, like I said, I still have the darn thing. So
fantastic. Fantastic.
Anyhow, as all kidding aside, you've interestingly enough, I didn't know any of this until I started doing the research, but you've had a pretty successful career in professional soccer. Professional coaching, I think. I don't know. I didn't see your playing background, but you were an assistant / goalkeeper coach for the Portland Timbers, Toronto FC, and the Houston Dynamo.
Yeah.
You coached the U20 Canadian national team.
Assistant
coach. And you were an assistant coach on one of the MLS All-Star teams.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask, how is it?
Well, I got to stop you there, though. I got to stop you there because a lot of people get mad at me. My first club in the professional game was Montreal Impact in the USL, and then the Vancouver Whitecaps. So being a proud Canadian, I have to, especially with the World Cup right now.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Those are two great clubs that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them.
That's fair. I got to ask, how did you end up at St. Lawrence? A great Division III program, not taking that away, but it just strikes me you had this professional soccer career and then you end up doing a D3 head coaching job.
Well, it was coming full circle for me, really. I live, we're very close to the Canadian border. I'm Canadian. Literally, I live here in Canton, New York, where St. Lawrence is, but it's literally 35 minutes door to door where I grew up. And St. Lawrence was always a part of my life, even as a kid. I was a soccer nut, with showing my age here, back to the North American Soccer League and everything, which just grabbed me. And my community that I was from, a lot of English, German, Dutch people. So the game was around, especially with a lot of my friends. But with St. Lawrence, my father coached high jumpers at a high level, junior national team level. And he would use the St. Lawrence field house that we have here to train his jumpers in the winter. And the head soccer coach was also the track coach, Bob Goodwin, at the time. I would tag along with my dad, and he knew, oh, here's this young kid that's a soccer junkie, and he'd get out the balls for me. And to me, this field house that we had in there was like Wembley Stadium for me, and I really enjoyed that. So St. Lawrence was always a part of me. And then, lucky enough, in the 90s, I was looking to get my teaching certification. I knew Bob DeRocher, who was here. I played against Bob in the summer leagues and things like that. And, I came on board with him just on a volunteer basis because it's so close. Mm-hmm. And I was, teaching and doing other coaching as well. And had like 9 fantastic years together, he and I, at St. Lawrence, and it became obviously a big part of me. Coaching with Bob allowed me to, really develop my chops in different areas and different things, and which led to new experience. So while I was at St. Lawrence, I actually started with Montreal Impact at that time. Started with our Canadian under 20 national team program, all while still being involved with St. Lawrence. So it was always there, and and then I made the jump to full time into the game with Vancouver Whitecaps in 2005, and then it went from there. But to be honest, I'd come home in the off season. As soon as the season was done, bang, I was back to home in Canada and right close to St. Lawrence, and I'd be down here all the time. And for some of the years, I wasn't in Toronto during the good years that they've been having. So our season a few times was done before St. Lawrence's. So I was able to come down and see a couple of St. Lawrence games. So it was always a part of me. And Bob, the special coach, very special coach. Probably one of the best in D3. If you take a look at his career and what he did and built here, is extraordinary. And to be a part of that with him was fantastic. So I never stayed away from it. Bob and I had always chat and always talk. So St. Lawrence was always a part of me. And you ask, why, would you leave MLS and to come to a small school? The only college job I would have went to was St. Lawrence University, or I would have stayed in Major League Soccer. Bob is our athletic director now, and he called, and the time was right. I got started late. I have a little 11-year-old, and my wife's from the Boston area, and my whole family's around here. And I thought, you know what? I really enjoy this age group as well, and I love St. Lawrence, and be a nice place to bring up my son. And be full-time coaching in the game and close to where I grew up. Let's go for it. I had a great experience in Major League Soccer. I mean, I won't lie, it was fantastic. But I haven't looked back. It's been superb, and it's been great. And that's why I came here. And I knew that I would get to work in good conditions, like at the professional level. We have unbelievable grounds crew here, and all the pitches and portable goals and just soccer-specific grass pitch, and so we try to run it like an under 23 team at a Premier League club. So I knew all those things were there to make it fun for my experience as well to coach. So that's why I'm here. If I wanted to aspire to go to a Division I in college, I would have done that right out of MLS. But that wasn't my goal. My goal was to come here, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, that's interesting. I always said, like, if you're in MLS or you're in any professional league, there's a little bit of being a journeyman, right? You just got to go where the opportunity is. And I think over time that just gets to be, unless you're making silly money like they do in some places, like it gets to be old after a while, right? And it just
correct.
Yeah.
You nailed it right on the head. I mean, my wife, she should open a moving company. She was so good and had it down pat. And I was lucky that all the clubs that I left on really good terms and things. And it was always to a situation that was going to be better. And so that was nice. But that pressure is always there. That pressure that it could be done really, really quick. You're coming to the end of a contract. You've got a brand new baby. Things aren't maybe going well with the team. Who knows what's going on? My wife was always the most calm, not me. She would say, the phone's going to ring. Don't worry. I'm going, well, I'm glad you feel that way. And luckily it always did. So I was lucky. But you nailed it right on the head. There's that pressure that goes with the travel. At first, that's great. But it can become old after a while, but what a great situation to be able to come into, and and it's not as if there isn't pressure here following one of the best soccer coaches in Division III history. and Bob DeRocher, and I think that was one of the reasons. I think with the job and the transition as well. So, but fantastic.
Hey, let me just ask you: would you say Bob was one of your major influences as a coach, or do you have other coaches that were big influences on you as to how you are as a coach or how you want to become as the coach?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say because we spent so much time together, he and I always thought, man, I'd love to keep this going forever. Bob and I coaching together. I really enjoyed, that synergy, that energy that we had, he and I, and that continuity through those 9 years was fantastic, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. And he was very innovative, doing some things a little bit ahead of his time that became in vogue a little bit later. But he especially now that I'm in this role back here, a lot of those things that he put into place and the things that he would talk about, because this is, night and day from the challenges at the professional level. So it's a different game and different demands. I was a teacher by trade, so that plays a big part here. But absolutely, Bob was a massive influence on me, and the way we had a great relationship where we could go back and forth on things, and it was really good. We saw the game very similar. He's someone who liked the ball, and this, I know that's in vogue right now and everything, but this is back in the 90s, and we're both big fans of Ajax Amsterdam. Yeah, no, we're both big fans of Ajax, and the uniforms, if you look back through and you look, were designed a bit like that, and that was on purpose. Bob loved Ajax. I got to spend a month in Ajax in '95. So there was all those kinds of things, and we had all that kind of energy going. So I always knew that. I thought maybe even if someday I could come back and coach with Bob, would be fun. So absolutely. From a goalkeeping standpoint, and which is interest to you, the goalkeeping, a goalkeeper in your family. For me, the Dutch goalkeeper coach Frans Hoek was a big influence on me. The way he sees the position and sees the goalkeeper in the context of the team, I think was fantastic. And this was in the 90s, and that's become much more now. So very big influence in down that road, and spent time with him. That's when I went to Ajax for a month and was able to spend that time with him. But also, I would say at the professional level, every coach I was with, I was able to take things from and learn from. I had some people that had been coaches at Ajax Amsterdam when I was in Toronto, so that was big. Obviously, seeing the things that they do there. John Spencer in Portland, who I had, Caleb Porter. But one that was a real big influence for me, and for sure, and made a lot of sense with me and was highly, highly successful, was Dominic Kinnear in Houston. And, I was lucky enough to be there when we won a MLS championship in '07. And again, in '08, I was there. We didn't win championship. We lost to New York, but that's a sore point. But but the one thing I will say about Dominic Kinnear, and it made total sense to me, and it's something that I've really tried to adhere to, is when he was dealing with players, tough situations, guys have families and things like that. You have to let them go. He always said, how would I want my son to be treated? How would I want him to, with honesty and with fairness, which, even if that honesty might be a sting a bit, but at least it's with that honesty and fairness, which equals respect. And sometimes that's hard for kids to understand, and you hope that they do, and it makes them better going on. But that for me was huge. And also the competitiveness, and why his teams are so successful. Every single exercise was competitive. And I won't go off on a tangent, but I'll give you guys a good example. Brad Davis, left-footed player, U.S. national team.
I was a fan of his.
Oh, yeah. Had a great career, Brad. And he wouldn't mind me saying this, I know it. when he came, he started his career. He came to Houston, I think, from New York, and Brad was great going one way, tack, not so much tracking back, defending, and doing some of the not so much fun roll up your sleeve stuff. Well, that was the mantra in Houston, and it was embedded in the bedrock of the team. And Brad got that, and that made Brad went like this. National team, all of those things. And that was a part of that culture that was, a part of Dom, but became the team and the team culture and the team mantra. And Brad's a great example of what that could do. So it's dominant Kinnear. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one more, a coach named Sean McCauley. Sean's an assistant with Minnesota right now in MLS. He was with me in Portland and has had an extensive career. He's, coming up as a player in England, but his coaching credentials, and very educated guy, smart guy, his perspective on things to maybe get you to look at all angles of a situation. Learned a ton from him when I was in Portland, for sure.
It's funny you mentioned Brad Davis, because I think he was like, when he was in New York, he was like that kid who had all the potential that just wasn't quite achieving. And then he goes to Houston, and like you said, it just sort of takes off for him. Because like I said, I was always, even in New York, I was a big fan of his. I just thought that he wasn't being used properly, but whatever. That's just from the outside perspective. But.
And that's what coaches too. It's interesting. It's good that you brought that up, because, and I think at this level too, when people are looking from the outside in, a lot of people might not know that. Maybe what goes on in training during the week, or what's required for the team to be successful. You see this person with unbelievable talent.
Yeah.
Well, why are they not, doing it? So there's so many factors that go into it. And, I've seen so many guys with talent like that, unbelievable talent, but they're up and down, up and down. So a coach doesn't know what they're going to get. Then you look at someone, I look at a guy like a Jack Jewsbury. People in MLS will know who Jack was. Jack, a great career in MLS, steady, solid player. When he had a down day, it was like this. It wasn't way down here. So as a coach, you knew what you were going to get. So there's those type of things. And that's why maybe you see a guy like Brad go to like Houston, and it's just an adjustment. And off they go.
Off they go.
Interesting.
I always, those are the little things that I always intrigue me. Like, how is it a player is so much better just by making a move? And you're right, it's all of the circumstances, how they get him to play and all that. So sometimes it is just a matter, and you could see why players jump team to team and even transfer, right, in schools, right? They go from one school to another thinking that if they go to someplace else, that change and the way the coach plays is going to have an impact on how they play.
Which is what they should do in the first place. Right. I think there's in our society today, I think there's too much of easy change, easy out.
It's all disposable, right? Like, thanks, you didn't do it for me, I'm going, right? Like, that's just sort of the and I think there's a merit to, and you don't see it as much, just players toughening it out, right? Like, hey, you got to experience the lows before you could get to the highs, is what I always say.
Absolutely.
Hey, let me ask you, just as I started asking this a couple of interviews ago because I really didn't think about it, because for me, my work and what I do is pretty much what you see is where I'm at all the time. But during COVID, how difficult, how easy was it for you, for your team, especially as you're just trying to sort of, keep building upon what you're doing, and obviously the challenges of, playing, not playing, season, canceled, all that stuff.
It was, and to be fair, we handled it very well, and so did the seniors that were on the team and had to train with nothing but inter squad games to look forward to. So I really take my hat off to the character of our leadership team of guys, and specifically the seniors for 2020. But what I will say, it was almost like a reboot for us. We won the Liberty League Championship 2018. 2019, even though we were losing a lot of quality players like Jethro Dede and things like that, I thought, you know what? I think we can be even better this next year. And we lost a lot of leadership. And I'll tell you what, I've heard some other coaches speak about that. And wow, it is very important. And so we had a down year. And COVID almost really gave us a reboot and a chance to examine some things, put some things in place I wanted to have happen to get on the path that I wanted to be at and represent what I felt I want to have a team in front of me that does this, and this. So, for instance, we have 2019 and then 2021 is the seasons, right?
Yeah.
The last 2 seasons. There's 22 players that weren't with us in 2021 that were here in 2019 just because of the double cohort graduation.
Yeah.
And 19 new players if you look at 20 to 21. So really it's like double freshman year, wasn't it? 2021. So, but for me, what we did, because most of our freshman class came that fall, as I told you before, Bob DeRocher is our athletic director, and he worked tirelessly and was on every single committee in the school with our COVID team, and the school as a whole did very well with COVID. Got a few shout outs for its testing and the way we handled it, which was great. And Brian Atkins, who's our head of sports medicine here, headed up the whole testing and response thing. They worked tirelessly, as did the responsibility of our athletes, to try and get it to where we could train. So I'm not going to cry any tears, because I know some people, I know my friend Adam Clinton at RPI, they weren't able to do anything. And it was very tough on people. We got in 30 training sessions, and we were able to play 3 full inter squad games on our field, on Sandy McAllister Field. So was it a season? No. Was it an opportunity for, and this is how we went to keep that competitive edge, is it's a chance for people that were going to be here again in 2021 to lay down a marker. Lay down a marker that, hey, I deserve this spot, or I should be here. That made it competitive for the seniors as well. So everything, we had a competitive element into it to keep the taste high and the carrot there. So that's how we came through it. And I can't complain. We had a lot of people that worked tirelessly here to allow us to get on the field, to be able to do those things. And I'll tell you, because you love the game, and all the other coaches I talk to, when it gets taken away from you,
oh my gosh,
wow, and when you're finally out there on the training ground again, and just the feeling was overwhelming. And I know my wife was happy, because I was driving her crazy, and all my boards and bags and everything all over the place and the thing. So but we came through it well, and able to lay into what we did for 21.
Right. Just because you mentioned sort of doing like as a reset, I'm just curious, like how important, you talked a little bit about leadership, but how important is your team culture and in terms of getting you to get your team to, I always say culture is what helps your team perform to a level. So like how important is your team culture and what you're doing to help you build that team?
It's huge. I mean, without a team first mentality and chemistry amongst the players, then nothing's possible. It's like having the parking brake on if you don't have that. It really, really is. Which is why, we had this year 5 in our leadership group, which I think is important, because it's in this environment, because it's people learning how to be leaders, how to have tough conversations with friends, right? Obviously, you'll agree with a friend because you want, but you may have to have that to be a true leader.
Yeah.
And so strengthen numbers in your leadership. I also, sometimes they just want to hear the coach all the time. You want them to experience other voices. And for me, I brought in Stuart Flaherty, who's an assistant at Dartmouth. And but other than being an assistant at Dartmouth, he was a head coach at Bates. He has a degree in sports psychology from Loughborough University. He's excellent. He works with professional athletes and professional players as well as college. And I had my captains do a little workshop with Stuart because I know him so well and I know the value. And we got a lot out of that. Help them grow to be leaders to what they're going to have to deal with, because it's going to happen. You're going to be challenged by your teammates or your friends, where you're going to have a hard conversation, because we don't see them. We see them on the training ground. Maybe when they come in, we go to games. They're with their teammates. They're in the dining halls. They're in the dorms. They're in classes. That's where it has to come from. You have to support and foster that and have a standard that we're trying to aspire to. But if you don't have that bought in and that leadership group who feels strong together and can bring everyone along with them, then you're going to have problems. And that was a key to the way our season went this year.
Yeah. I'm a big culture guy. I always just think like that, even at the professional level, right? It's the teams that sort of have, you never see a team that's totally disjointed and they hate each other and it's just, you never see them win, right? You only see the teams that are bonded together, that are same purpose, same goals, that are the ones that are successful. So I think it's a critical piece. So this is, and actually it probably, your experience in MLS too weighs in on this, but you were part of the coaching staff, or you were helping when they won the national championship in '99. Is that?
Yeah.
I mean, undefeated, which is remarkable in of its own right.
Yeah.
Having been there, and obviously in MLS too, having won an MLS Cup, how difficult is it to get there? Right? Because I don't think there's a secret sauce. I think there's a whole slew of circumstances that have to play into it. But how difficult is it to get to that top of the mountain?
I think just the way you phrase it, how difficult is it to get there, the journey to get there? Because in both of my experiences, the championship here at St. Lawrence, so that was '99. I came on board in '94. I think that was Bob's third season, maybe second or third season. And the whole process of, okay, this is how we want to play. We're getting this level of athlete, recruiting. That Bob was a tireless recruiter, but was the process. This year we made great gains. Oh, we beat this team. And then that belief and moving on. And when you finally win, that's what you remember.
Yeah.
You remember that journey, that process. For me, it was I was substitute teaching, working at Montreal, doing this, getting in my car, driving down to St. Lawrence, going here, doing all that because you love it, right? And how worth it all of that was. So the journey to get there is the big thing. And in MLS, it was the same thing. I remember as soon as the final whistle went, thank God Pat Onstad made a big save at the end with New England, against New England. And the emotions that come over you is, you see your wife there, you see your parents there, is the journey, all the things that you went through to lead to that, to get there. Is anyone going to be able to do it, or us here 22-0-0 again? I don't think so. And the reason I say that is, like anything, and especially in our sport, and I got asked when I first came back in 2015 by another colleague in the Liberty League, what are the differences, Tosh, you see now you were away and now that you're back? I said, it's just like the game in America and North America as a whole. The game in 1999 to where it is now in 2021 is leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And you can see at the highest level, but that trickles down.
Yeah, yeah.
So the number of coaches that are out there that are good, but the number of players now that are out there and they're not hidden. Nobody's hidden really anymore, right? You said the old VHS tapes and that, and you go and and if you're someone like Bob, there's an unbelievable recruiter you pull from here and there, and he was unbelievable. And but I think to achieve that in this environment is difficult. You're going to pick up a lot to go. Now, someone may do it. Yeah. Someone may do that, but it's. I just think there's too many good players now, and a lot of coaches out there. So teams are well organized, and let's face it, you need a little bit of luck. And in some of your other interviews, it's great to listen to guys. I think it was Mike at Washington and Lee who brought up, you do need a little bit of luck at times and things. And I know in our 22-0 season, we the quarterfinal at Messiah, we needed some things to go our way there. We were under the gun quite a bit. That was the toughest game. The semifinal and final. No, it was the quarterfinal with Messiah. Yeah. We needed some things. I think they had like 18 corner kicks or something like that. But we did our thing, got it down, took our chance, and scored. And the team was very resilient and could compete from the way Bob ran things with his training. So the guys were tough and they could handle that side of it as well as play. And the coach there at the time, Dave Brandt, so it was a very good game. Yeah. But you need moments. You need that little bit to do something special, like Bob and we did at St. Lawrence. But I think the game's moved so far from now. I know there's going to be a million emails now to me from guys from back then who, we won every game 12-0. We the highest quality. Yes, we had very good players. Yeah. But like anything, the game evolves, and there's that much more out there, I think.
I'm always amazed when I watch the games. Just like you said, there is a big difference between playing, 5 years ago, 20 years ago when I was playing, between the players then and the players now. That just that alone just elevates the game, even if a coach doesn't know what they're doing, hypothetically. They're still going to be a better team than a team 30 years ago or 20 years ago or 10 years ago, just because of the quality of player.
Yeah.
Just from a team standpoint, is there something that you would say that differentiates the national championship team to other teams? Like, was there something that was there that you're, again, in hindsight, because it's right. I never thought about that. You win it. You don't think about the winning. You think about all the stuff that came beforehand. But is there something like?
Yeah. Fighters. I mean, you have to have the talent. Yeah. And we had an unbelievably talented team. I think 4 players from that team went and played at professional level from Division III, which is almost unheard of. Yeah. But they would fight and train. I mean, compete every day. The competitive level of that 99 team was unbelievable. And, they would almost come to blows at times, but then they're laughing, they're brothers with each other. It's almost like, if you had brothers. 2 of my best friends are twins, Croatian guys. And they would fight. They would have some unbelievable, but boy, someone else come in, they're the first one there. Yeah. And that environment, and I know everyone wants, there's some magical thing or this and that. No, it was that and that unbelievable bond and chemistry, but every day that resilience from having to compete at your best level every day and bring it. I think that's what allowed their talent to really shine and really go through. And I think that was key. Look at the Messiah game. Without that kind of training, that kind of work that they put in, that Bob set up and brought them through, you don't get through a game like that Messiah game away from home. The mist is there, the fog. All of a sudden, these bagpipes start, and then the Messiah team's running out. I'm like, wow, am I at the Battle of Culloden here, or I'm, and that's intimidating. But we were prepared for that. We were prepared to fight. We were prepared to go on. So I think that's huge, and that chemistry. And we talked about that before.
Yeah. Okay, so because you're a keeper coach, and as a former goalkeeper, and my son, and keeper stuff is really interesting to me. As a keeper coach, what are some of the things that that differentiate a good goalkeeper to those who may not be so good? Like, who are the guys that make a name for themselves versus those who don't?
I think for me, it's definitely every goalkeeper at every level, even the top 1% at the highest level, are going to have an awful mistake. It's the nature of the position. Ball through the legs, a bad decision to come. All of those things are going to happen. The really, really good ones, great ones, they don't happen as often, and usually not on a big stage. Now, bringing it down some more, and how does that translate into us here and when you're recruiting, is I look for goalkeepers that can make all the basic saves, all the saves that they should make. The balls, are they handling the balls that are at them or just to the sides of them? Is their positioning good? Those things, very, very clean, good decisions. Do I hold it? Do I get it away? All of that. So very simple for me, and a consistency with that. Now the saves up to the top corner and tipping over the top, and that's talent. That's talent. But the most you're going to deal with, their balls hit directly at you or very close to you.
Yeah.
And depending on how your team plays is another factor, and we'll get into that in a minute. But for me, the goalkeepers that I've worked with, Pat Onstead, he's now the GM with Houston Dynamo. Pat, very successful goalkeeper, played into his 40s. Just a real technician. Everything we did in training was, when we would work just with goalkeepers, was everything hit at and around us, the things I'm going to see most in the game that I'm going to have to deal with to be good at it, percentage wise. And that's also Donovan Ricketts, who I had, who was also an older goalkeeper at the time. Same thing, a strong belief, work in the things that are in and around you, the things that you're going to see all the time. They all have talent to pull off the big save. Stefan Fry, who I had when he was now at Seattle. Stefan was a rookie in MLS when I was at Toronto. It's very similar to the guys I mentioned, the veteran guys, in that he had that a mentality, a very calm mentality. Again, someone that was a real technician and took pride in making the saves that he should do. And then as a younger goalkeeper, being open to new things to get better. So very different when you work with them, obviously. And one kid to look at right now is the kid in Chicago, 17-year-old kid, Salinka, they call him Gaga. Aiden Brown's the goalkeeper coach there, has done a great job. 17 years old, he's a starter, and saw his debut last year. And you know what the impressive thing is, and why he's doing what he's doing? It looked like he's played 100 games in the league already. Calm, good presence, just staying within himself. All of those things, and that's unusual. And at 17, wow, it usually takes a longer time to do that.
You have to get that. I always say you have to get that rage or that like anxiousness out before you get to a point where like, this is too tiresome. I'm just going to focus in on.
Because nerves
like that way.
Nerves are the biggest thing. Like I've had young goalkeepers. You're going to go into Seattle in front of 67,000 where it's nuts, or in a CONCACAF game, you're down at the Azteca, and the best thing you can do to get that out of there, that those thoughts of, negativity creeping in, is just your concentration and positioning, always moving in relation to the ball. Thinking of, okay, even when we're in possession, how are we if it turns over here? Am I good? Are we good?
Yeah.
If that keeps going and you plug into that, the negative things don't have a chance to come in. They really don't. And that's difficult. Which is why they usually get better with age.
They age, right? Like some of your best goalkeepers that, I could think of Pat Jennings and Donny Zureta. They were all fantastic. Jean-Marie Pfaff in Belgium. Like these guys were great when they hit their 30s. Like they became Gigi Buffon, right? Like they just became so much better when they hit their 30s. It was like, yep, I'm just cool as a cucumber back here.
It makes a difference.
I will say, I mean, if I could, I would sort of bow to you, because my biggest thing with goalkeepers nowadays is I think they're getting coached to play this, right? These big saves up high, or these big saves, and not so much arm's length. I had a coach who used to tell me, make all of your saves at arm's length, and you are a very good goalkeeper. So don't worry about the other stuff. It's just
great advice. Great advice. And I think you hit on something that's really key about how goalkeepers are trained. And for me, and like I said, Hoke was a big influence on me, because everything they did was based on, well, what are the demands of the goalkeeper for the game? Too often they're by themselves jumping over barrels and doing this and that and these things which have nothing to do with the game. And then we have a poor kid who are going to say, okay, now we want you to help us build up and be good with your feet and be able to find the correct passes. We want you to be able to organize this back four, decide when to move out, decide when to come. Well, if you don't train it, how can you demand it from a kid, or any goalkeeper really, and any player, right? Well, they got to be seen as a player. And they really have to be seen as a player that's part of the team. And so 80%, I would say 80 to 85% of the work that in the professional level I do, and I've done it here, is with the team. And in situations.
Situational,
of what we're going to demand from them. And then, of course, just like with players who do technical work to get their skills, they need that as well, which is same as field players. But they need to see those pictures. They need to see those moments, and as many of them as they can get.
I think for too long, I don't know about other places, but here in New Jersey, and it's always been, it's 10 guys who are the team, and then there's the goalkeeper, right? Almost like rather than thinking of the 11 and how they're playing and the goalkeeper being a part of that, it's always been like, he's the guy who makes the saves. Don't worry about him. We're going to focus in on the 10. And I think that's not the way to go. But all right, so let me ask you, just to sort of switch into the season. When I think MLS is probably different in this regard, but for at St. Lawrence, from a coaching perspective, do you actually prepare for the individual teams, or do you say, are you more concentrated on or more focused in on, hey, this is how we are going to play regardless of who the opponent is?
For the most part, yes. I mean, I think you have to, because the season is so short, it's such a challenge. I think college soccer players have the toughest environment in world soccer. And I'll tell you why, because they're have to very quickly develop as a team to be able to play and play in a way together that you want to be able to do that suits. And they also have to go to school and achieve academically. And they're also thrown into a living environment that's probably not conducive in the best things of sleep and things like that. So I tell them that. Great respect for them and the challenges that they have, and to become good. So I think the biggest thing for me is I focus totally on us and how we want to play and what we do. my way of looking at the season is, yeah, I know there's the strength of schedule and everything and getting in to the tournament if you don't win your conference. That's not so maybe wrong, but it's how I feel, is not so important to me. What's important is, in our mantra with the team, we want to be in that championship game in November, in that conference championship game. Everything that happens builds towards that, be it losses, injuries, good things, any kind of wobbles. Until that door is shut, it's building that mentality that everything keeps going towards that. Mm-hmm. Don't lose sight, don't lose focus of where we want to be. And hopefully that game, we want that game on our own field to do well during the season.
Yeah.
But that mantra is there. So, but absolutely, we play some really good teams and some great coaches that I have so much respect for and really enjoy. Yeah. And absolutely, the respect I have for them is, so you got to be pragmatic at times as well. A team's going to do certain things, or maybe it's the conditions force you to change some things a little bit. But I think the ultimate goal is to try and impose the way we want to play on the opponent as best we can. And that's what we try and build for. And quite honestly, I look for it as we're building towards that game in November. Yeah. So willing to do a few things that might have been easier to get a win maybe this way. Don't get me wrong, I want to win every single game like everybody else.
Right.
But to build so that hopefully we can be at our best and get into that. And then the NCAA tournament's like the FA Cup, the way I look at it. And I think in college soccer in Division III, it's very much like the FA Cup because, you have small teams, that are playing. You have NESCAC schools that have $5 billion endowments that you're playing against. So there's your Sheikh Mansour that owns Man City Conference, things like that, and smaller schools and this, and it makes it kind of unique in that tournament. Can you go on a run and do some damage and get that championship? Now, can we go into this 6-game tournament and see what we can do?
Yeah.
But you do look at your opponent for sure. You'd be incredibly naive if you didn't.
Yeah.
But you usually take your philosophy and try and, how do we exploit them or impose that on them and have the respect, to deal with what they bring.
Yeah. I think if it were weekly games, I think I would suspect that a lot more coaches would focus in on their opponent. But I just think the turnaround is so quick, right? Like you don't necessarily have the time to in season, hey, I'm going to concentrate on this is the team we're playing. This is how we're going to exploit them. And focus in on how to react to them. I just don't. Yeah. My sense is that you only have 24 hours in a day and you have 2 days to prepare, right?
At this level, I think you got to be very careful. At any level, really, to be honest. When I was, at the professional level, you prepare for the opponent, absolutely. But especially, I think at this level, you can suffer by paralysis from analysis.
Yeah.
From too much. So what we try to do, if there's things that that we see in the opponent we're going to play that we want to try and do, we'll build them into the exercises we do in the build up to that in the week. So you're implanting that picture without really going over. And we use video quite a bit, mostly on ourselves, but maybe to show just a few pictures of some things that they might see. But we try and build that in without overloading them too much. Make sure that they can see the picture on the field.
Yeah. That's a great point. As a player, there were times where you just felt overloaded with information that you stepped on the field and you're like, what are we supposed to do? Right?
And you got to be careful, right? It's a tough one.
Yeah. Hey, so we talked about this a little bit earlier about COVID. What were your expectations for this past year? Like coming in out of all of that nonsense, and then you're like, okay, here we are in August. And did you have any expectations set, or was it just sort of like, hey, let's just enjoy the season?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I enjoy this job and I enjoy every second of it, even more than I did before, if that was possible, is what COVID did. And I try, and I think all of us, the team, the players, feel that too. And I know the other teams as well, that, hey, how nice is this to be back out here playing? But expectation wise, always the same.
Yeah.
Win that Liberty League championship, automatic ticket to now try and see if you can do something special. That's always the goal.
Mm-hmm.
That's always the goal is
Yeah.
that. And I knew we had a group that could win it. I mean, we started a couple of freshmen, three other players who had played one college season, and so. But it's good. You felt confident in them. That we had the quality to be able to evolve into where we needed to be to get that goal.
Yeah. So speaking of, and it's actually the way you're describing it now makes sense, because you in the conference tournament, you go up against a good Vassar, a good RPI. You score twice on both of them. You lost to both of them during the regular season, right? And then you play Ithaca for the final, and you beat them after losing against them in the regular season. So, I mean, I'm not sure this is the right question to ask, but was it that were you peaking at the right time, or was it you had a comfort level with who you were facing, and it sort of gives a confidence, like there's no unknowns here, right? Like we're going into the final, we know what we're facing, we know what we're capable of.
Yeah. I think what you said there, you know what you're capable of, and it's very hard to beat a team twice in a season. And I think we came away, the games you mentioned, RPI, by the way, very good team and very well coached by Adam Clinton, and they had a lot of those fifth-year seniors that came back from that excellent team that Adam had in 2019 there. So they were going to be very, very difficult. And we had a good game with them at St. Lawrence here. It was a one-goal game.
Yeah.
It could have went either way. I think they were better than us at that time. They were. But we had chances to win the game, and one-goal game. Excuse me. Ithaca, to be quite honest, if you watch that game and then you didn't show the score and said, which team are you going to bet your $50 on here won this game? And it just shows goals are everything.
Yeah. It's a game of goals.
Yeah, we dominated the game, and I felt, we felt, that we could impose on what we did, but we didn't score, and they took their chances and they scored, and it's, and then at Vassar, same thing, we traveled down there, and Andy, Jennings, who's just retired, great career at Vassar, fantastic coach. A good team. It's always a good game. They like to play, so it's an enjoyable game. It looks like a real game. So it's fun. And but again, they took their chances. We didn't play well in the day. And but what I will say is, you look at like the Ithaca game. I told you, well, yeah, we dominated the game. Well, I think one of the best quotes just sums it up. Is Cruyff. It's quality without results is useless, but results without quality is boring.
Yeah.
And I think that sums up our philosophy. We have to get results. It doesn't matter if you're keeping the ball and doing this and that if you don't get results, right? But we want to do it a certain way. And I think we just peaked at that right time. There's moments in a season, and we talked about culture where you're going to get tested. And we were tested in a big way after Vassar. Some fingers were starting to point a little bit, but they reeled it in, had a good week of training, booked their ticket to the playoffs, beat Skidmore at home with one game to go, and then down to play away at Hobart, which is always a difficult situation there. And to win and beat Hobart 3-2 in overtime propelled us into that next one. The game at Vassar, we had, when you say look at your opponent, we had some specific things that we wanted to do when we weren't in possession to allow us to be successful, because they want to build out from the back as well.
Right.
And we targeted a few things and a few people and took a few chances with a high line, and it came off for us.
Yeah.
We frustrated them and scored and did well. And then at RPI, again, another good team. They're playing at home, but we had a strong belief in what we're doing and what we wanted to do, and enough quality to be able to take advantage when we did get that opportunity, and then the resilience to hang on. They were on us. I'll tell you what, they're a good team, and they were on us. And that was a big one to win. And then I thought the Ithaca game, I thought we were full value for that right from the start. We gifted them a goal, come back into it, and they're fighters. I'll tell you what, they're tough. They're a tough group. They're fighters. But I think in the end, we felt very confident going into that game, and I think they showed that in the match.
That's interesting. Just how right? Like, it's a game of goals, right? If you take advantage of your opportunities, right?
Yeah.
It's on any given day.
Yeah.
Hey, was there at any point in the season where you were like, this team has legs, it can go, we can win the tournament or not? Or did you ever have any of those moments, or were you constantly on this trajectory, we just need to get better tomorrow?
Yeah, I agree with what you just said. I honestly believed that if we could keep just moving forward with that mantra of the blinders on, okay, yeah, it was a loss, we learn from it, we get better, and the doors are open to this. If we could keep that, I knew we would be fine. We'd start hitting our stride, we'd get there. And we did. And we did it we had two center backs. They're seniors, but they were converted into center backs. They did a great job. Freshman outside back on the right, and a kid playing his first college soccer games on the left, but good players. And it would take time. So you got to give them that time. And it did. And it started to roll, and it started to come. And like you said, it could have fallen apart, because we experienced some losses. Right. But without that strong chemistry and that belief, you see them, you watch the video, they're all jumping together, everything, it's crazy. That's huge. Every single player played a massive part in that. Because if you don't train the way you want to play and with the intensity, you can't do it yourself. Every single person was huge in that. And that's tough to get. And that's where the chemistry piece, which is all them. But I knew if that could hold, we could get there.
You would get there.
Yeah.
All right. So one of your players I'm a big fan of, Marvin. I think he's a fantastic player. I picked him as one of my top 33 players in the country. And I even went as far as to say, like, if he has the potential to be a D3 player of the year. I thought he was that talented. How important was he for your team? And am I just outsizing his ability, or do you think he's got runway to be a much better player?
Oh, there's runway to be a much better player, I think. And the thing that's where I'm hard on, not hard on, but honest with Marvin. He came with a huge pedigree, and I think for him, he was at Taft Prep School, and a lot of the big Division Ones were after him, but he started high school in Zimbabwe as like a 12-year-old, and there was an issue with he was only going to have 2 years of eligibility at Division One, and they couldn't get it changed, which I think is just what an absolute shame, criminal.
Yeah.
And but Marvin's an excellent student, fantastic student, and we have a lot of alumni at Taft that work there and everything, and showed him, here's St. Lawrence and what we have to offer, and with your degree and everything that you're going to get. And also, which is rare because we're not trying to produce professional players here.
Right.
We're not. Professional behaviors we are for when they leave here. But that door didn't have to shut for him because he has aspirations and he's played for his country at U20. So, I look at him through that lens because that's how he wants to be looked at. So there's a long way to go.
Yeah.
And, he doesn't need to drop. Now it's creating space for other people, how to, go away from the ball instead of always dropping for the ball, using that right foot a little bit as that sweet left foot, using that right foot defensively, a tactical understanding of the game as well, moments of the game. And he just had a great experience. I sent him on spring break to Columbus Crew and their MLS Next team.
Oh, wow.
Which is basically the second team.
Yeah.
And he did very well. Very well. He got a lot of feedback. He came in, his eyes were bright as anything, but it was a very ha-ha moment for him because he got a lot of great feedback of, the things that we just talked about there. And so he's more motivated than ever. And I think you'll see those parts of his game and how to make others around you better. Will be big. Does he have a chance? Yeah, he has a chance. He has a chance. When I say has a chance to play at another level past here, absolutely. I think, this experience showed that he can hang. But there's a lot of factors that would have to go into that. First and foremost for Marvin, he's a great kid, loves the game, great student, great person on campus, more than just on the football, the soccer. He's really made an impact. He's good, like I said, going to have an excellent degree. Mm-hmm. And it's like you tell anyone, you get that degree, now go chase your dream because you have that. No one can take that degree from you.
Yeah.
And he had to go through a knee injury his first year and things like that. And COVID, and we couldn't do too much in the winter when the D1s were all playing a season. Yeah. All his buddies that he knows, right? So he came through a lot of things there. And it was nice to be able to see him go to Columbus and do well and sort of rekindle that fire a bit for him. But wonderful player, very good player. Some of the goals that he can score as a midfielder are excellent. And he's fantastic, and he's a great guy.
Yeah, the games I watched, he stuck out, right? Like, there's always you don't see him very often because I don't want to say like the level is the same, but most teams you could see the level, you get it. But then there's that one guy where you're like, that kid is special, and it didn't. I was like, that kid is really special, and I watched some more, and I think he's. Yeah, I'm not surprised that he would have aspirations to play a higher level just because he has that capability.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. That'll be interesting, especially coming from a Division III. Does he get the opportunity? Some of it's breaks, right? Some of it's luck. Some of it's you in the right place at the right time, right?
100%, you're right. But the thing I will say about now is, and having been on the other side of it in Major League Soccer and in the professional game in general, they don't care where you came from.
Yeah.
Can you play?
Yeah.
Can you play? Yeah. I mean, but this kid was at Duke. Well, maybe his exposure will be a little bit more.
Yeah.
Getting you the opportunity, you'll get the opportunity, but what are the little things you need to be able to hang to be that pro that's steady and not this? He'll get that opportunity. If you're good enough, you're going to get found now.
Yeah. That's what I've been saying for the longest of time. It's like there's no like soccer field somewhere that the greatest players of our generation are playing, but they just haven't been found. I'm like, that's not the case anymore. If you're a 16-year-old player and you have the capability, somebody's going to be in your ear like, hey, you should join us. You should join us. I just think that's where we're at now as a soccer culture, country, however you want to.
You're 100% right. You nail it right on the head. And this is what, I've told Marvin and tell players is our games are being watched. I'm telling you right now, there's USL Championship, MLS Next.
Yeah.
There's, agents that are watching guys and things like that. I'll tell you, at clubs, there'll be a junior player or administrator that's under the GM, right? And in a little scouting department that they'll have, we want you to watch some Division III games because every game's on, and try and find people that have been overlooked, people that develop late, especially men, especially boys. Some guys don't, are still growing when they're 18, 19. I had a goalkeeper, Jake Gleason, in Portland. Jake grew 1.5 inches when we were there. He was, 18. So players can develop later. Players are players, and you want your job. You want to win, right? You want to win and be successful at the professional level. I don't care where you came from.
Yeah.
You can play.
Yeah.
You're coming.
Yeah. So, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter your country of origin. Doesn't matter anything. Man, if you can play, we want you, right?
Yeah.
Hey, just to go a step back here, in the NCAA's, your first round, you lost to a very good Washington College team. I actually spoke to the coach in one of the interviews. Do you have any thoughts about that game? I'm just curious, like how you thought you fared against them.
Yeah, it was a good game. And by the way, I love Roy Dunshee, the coach. What a good coach. And everything I see with him, he just impresses me a lot, impressed me on the day. It was great when all the coaches meet and you have all the technical meeting and all that. He had a good sense of humor about him as well. The team they put together, they liked to play. What a good team they had. I thought they did really, really well. Look, they took Tufts right to
the end.
Yeah, they really did. I was disappointed in us in that if you watch the first 5-6 minutes, when you talk about do you scout your opponent, do you look at the things that we wanted to do was move the ball and then get our outside backs forward on the other side and create 2v1s on the other side. Perfect. We did it on both sides. First 5-6 minutes, the spaces were where we thought they would be, had opportunities, and then pressure the outside backs when they're in possession because they want to play. They want to play Washington. And, so they would make the choice to go long and we'd get it. And then we got away from that. Players dropping too deep to get the ball, or defensively someone wanting to be too honest and not staying in an area they were. So now you're not getting pressure on those center backs. So they're able to circulate the ball a bit better. I think a telling moment in the game was when they had an early wide free kick. They scored, but it was called back. And I think that rattled our guys a bit. And I think that's where the younger side of our team showed a bit. It really did. And, and then the goals that they scored, bad moments, right before halftime, a direct from a corner kick that goes in. How many times do you see it? Yeah. But it was well taken. Hey, the kid swung it in. Full credit to him. But right before half, tough. I thought our response was good at the start of the half. We started to take the game now. Let's pressure the game here a little bit. And we lost the ball on a sideline in the midfield area. Just a simple giveaway. And the ball that was played forward bounced off someone right into the path.
Yeah.
The guy and finished well. Great finish. Great front player. I'm sorry, I forget his name, but he's a wonderful player. I'm sorry, I forget, but they had a really nice player. I thought they did well. So those moments, and then our guys, they kept fighting though. They kept fighting and playing. And the one unfortunate thing was the second yellow for our one of our center backs, our captain. So he red card. I think that was in like the 60th minute.
Yeah, I think
so. Even with down a man, we kept pushing the numbers forward. So it's not fun to be losing, but it was a was a good game. I thought they're a team I'd love to play because I like how they're coached and what they do. And I would have liked to have maybe do a little bit better, but I would think in the end, I think it's we gained some experience, some of our younger players in that moment to be ready for the next one when we get that chance. But very good team, classy team. I was cheering for them. I'll tell you what. I thought the way they conducted themselves and on the pitch and everything and the way they played was a real credit to it's Roy, I believe, Dunshie, and it was a reflection of him. So I thought they had a wonderful season and did really well.
They were. I always like seeing the teams where I'm like, these guys play, like the way I would like to see games play. And I thought the way they played against Montclair the next day, I guess, they were just awesome. And that was one of the top 5 games for me for the season to watch was that game, just because of how well they played. And to your Coach Dunshie, I think is a fantastic guy. What a great example of a Division III coach for his own program, but also as an ambassador for the game, right?
Excellent. And that Montclair game you bring up too, I think, so they gain that confidence in beating us, and then against Montclair, as the game went on, you could see them rise.
Growing. Yeah.
And they had some 5th-year guys there that was big. Like they hadn't been really in the tournament before, but that was big. But you could see them come on, and after that win, didn't surprise me what they did with the Tufts game.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. I've said in my interview with Coach Dunshie, I asked him, I'm like, did you play rope-a-dope? Did you purposely let them have the ball for the first 20, 25 minutes and then start taking it back? And he was joking, like, I wish I was that good.
Right.
I love that.
No, I think they just grew. They grew into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the second half, they just owned it as far as
Oh yeah.
If it's okay for the last bit here, we'll just shift over to recruiting. So this is not a me question. I didn't put this together. This all long story short, but this comes from somebody on the D3 boards who gave me the idea of reaching out to you for the interview, that they would love to hear you talk. So someone there, I was like, hey, this is going to happen. So what question would you want me to ask? So the question that he had was, or observation is, you brought in a lot of international players during your tenure, and it'd be interesting to hear how you make those connections. I did look, and I don't know if it's accurate, because they might be American. I was an American kid from Spain, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But you had 8 kids who were not from the U.S. But so could you just comment about having international players, and how do you find those guys? Like that to me is a lot more interesting. How do you find somebody over Zimbabwe?
Well, he was at Taft, and it's so interesting because the world is small now. The world is so much smaller, and the opportunities for people to come to America and go to school, not just college, but the prep schools. New England prep schools is an area that we recruit quite heavily, and a lot of. And they have some very good foreign players that are there that are excellent students, and they're going to, obviously a prep school that has a high, academic rigor. So there's some good fits there. And to be honest, that's where many have come from. But I also, we have, some guys that I've known. I have a Canadian fellow that I know that works out of Hong Kong and helping kids come to America. And, we have a kid that's from Holland, but went to high school his last year's in Hong Kong because his parents were working there. And as well as a boy that was born in Hong Kong who's here. We have some Canadians. I have a German goalkeeper, and the interesting one there, you get a lot of things from. There's a lot of companies in Europe that try to broker to help kids come to America, and Ben, our goalkeeper, Ben Wolfinger, he was through one of these, and I'm watching the footage. I go, wait a minute. The Germans, when they pick their youth national teams, at least they used to back in the early 2000s, and I think it's still the same. They're under 20s and under 17s. I believe it's called, they have states in Germany, and they have state teams, so all the best kids will play in state, and they'll go to one location and play in a tournament. And the national team coaches are observing them there and everything as well. We used to get to play with that in that tournament, the Canadian national team at under 20, because our full men's national team coach was Holger Osieck, who was Beckenbauer's assistant when they won the World Cup and everything. So we were able to go play in that, and it's at a place called Duisburg at a certain facility. So years later, here we go, I'm watching Ben, and that's in Duisburg. I go, wait a minute, that's the state team he's playing for. So I knew the level. The level was high. He's 5'10", which is why we have him, and he's not in the German, right? But he's an excellent goalkeeper. But that's where I saw him, and I knew the level right away. And he, another one, excellent student, wanted to have a different experience. He came up through the academy of Offenbach Kickers, which is like a Bundesliga 2 club. So, you know, really good education in the game and things like that. His father, funny enough, mother's German, father Swedish. The father was a referee in the old American Hockey League, the AHL. So it spent a lot of time in America and really wanted to be here. So it just worked really well. And you know, that's sort of one example of stumbling into where you see. And then we have another goalkeeper who's from Cyprus who came from our international admissions director, said, hey, Tosh, you need to take a look at this kid. And sure enough, he was playing for, what is it, Ammonia Nicosia, the team that you see in the Champions League for Cyprus. He was in their youth, and you could see him playing. I said, fantastic, kid's coming to the school. So things like that can work out as well. So yeah, it's not that I'm purposely going to that. It's worked out that way, and we've been lucky because it's a really good culture mix and experience for everyone, and it's great because we're trying to build one chemistry amongst many cultures, and it's fantastic. And I think there's a lot of value in that educationally, you know, which makes it great, you know, from my perspective.
Hey, as long as they keep coming in and they keep getting players like that, why not, right? And if the network is creating them, I do know of coaches at Division I in particular. They have guys that are looking for like purposely. I'm going to go over and trying to build out networks to bring in, you know.
Well, I'm not going to lie, we have alumni.
All over.
Who their eyes are, and they'll bring somebody, and you'll have a look. And that's that's a great thing about college sport as well. But I'll tell you what, it's difficult with colleges to have. You know, I'm lucky here at St. Lawrence. I'm able to go recruit and go to things, but a lot of places don't have the manpower or resources to be able to do that, and that's a real challenge. That's the biggest to me.
The how do you recruit properly is probably with limited resources at, you know, just generally speaking at the Division III level. That's a hard thing to do. Hey, let me ask you something. Just broadly speaking, are you at a point where you're recruiting individual players, like you just want good soccer players, or are you recruiting positions? Like, I have a hole I have to fill.
What we do, I mean, we have, you know, what we want to do, what our game model is, how we want to play. So I'm looking at a player. Now, the player may be a forward, but maybe I see him ultimately, the position might be outside back. We look at, you know, a winger, wide player, tack and mid, outside back, kind of look at it as one position. Does the player have at least qualities to play in two of those positions? because you want to do a lot of rotation and things like that. Are they comfortable if they're an outside back playing in the middle of the pitch like a midfielder? Are they comfortable if they're out wide? Those types of things. Could they develop that way? So, you mentioned it. You said, or you just want a player. Pretty much, you're looking for someone who's very comfortable with the ball.
Yeah.
Obviously, comfortable with the ball in tight spaces. Doesn't give it away. Plays simple. A lot of times, maybe they don't stick out because of that. They keep it moving. But that's okay. Right there, that's what you want. So you try and recruit particular to what you want to do, and that makes it a little bit easier when you're looking at the sea of players that are out there. It helps when you know how you want to play and what you want to do, and then specific characteristics for that.
Okay. Let me ask you something, because now you've got some recruiting under your belt over the last 7 years, or heavy recruiting at this level. What is actually, it was Coach Dunshee who made me realize it's not that they lack, it's that they never have played at the next level. What are some of those things where you think high school players are not experienced at to jump to the collegiate level, right?
Or the biggest hurdle? The biggest
hurdles. Yeah.
I think a couple of things. And this is just a generalization. Some have it and some don't. But I think at times the competitiveness every day that you need to bring in training, the competitiveness to compete for your spot, the competitiveness to compete for the minutes, being open, allowing yourself to be open to handle coaching. Right. A lot of kids have trouble with that. And walls go up right away. Right. So how you approach that, is different from, because people are different. So that is big, I think, at times. And I think you have some kids that were a big fish maybe in a small pond, and all of a sudden they're being asked to bring more and that can be hard at times for kids. But it's so great when you see them break through that and evolve. It's so great when you see it, and you know what, the majority of them do, because they are good kids and they're smart kids, and they're going to get it and mature as they go, because they're going to have to, because when they leave here, they're going to have to work for somebody, right? They're going to have to work in a team setting, which is the value of sport at this level. I mean, they're developing skills they don't even know, which is why, they have jobs, most of my guys, before they leave spring of their senior year. They're so marketable that way. So that's a big one, I think. Being able to handle a bit of criticism and have to bring the demands every day, I think, is one. Another one is you have a lot of players that great technique. You can see they've worked hard on their technique, but the tactical understanding, or to see the pictures, they want you to tell them, do I stand exactly right here? Or do I stand right here? No, the game's free flowing, right? The game, you have to see what the pictures bring to where you want to move, which gets me back to training, why I think everything's got to be giving them decisions. You know what I mean? Everything has to be, what are they going to see? How are they going to solve that? Where's the space? Those kinds of things. So I think that kind of understanding, some of them have had a great education in it, in the game that way. Many not so much. And they have to learn that, I think, and have an understanding of that. And because they are smart kids, they're going to college here, it's fun. You can do a lot with them because they can pick things up fairly quick.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest dangers right now is I think a lot of kids get comfortable being somewhat of a robot in the game, where they just, right, like, I know that I am supposed to go from here to here, and then they don't have the sight, right, the tactical awareness of maybe that's not the best run right now, or maybe that's not the best use of what I'm supposed to do. Maybe I should go over to a different spot, or I
Yeah.
think that's but I think that's normal, right? Just the nature of a team, and a coaching is just going to be like, you do this, you do this, right? It's just the easy way to coach. But last question for you, and then I'll let you have your day back. What's the best way for somebody to get your attention? For somebody is thinking about going to St. Lawrence. What's the best way to sort of, hey, I'm here?
Yeah. Well, for me, when we're actually out there looking, or at an event, or we see a video that highlight tape. Now that's obviously their best actions, and then you want to see full games. So if you're sending video to coaches, send the highlights, and then we're going to come and we're going to ask you for full games and watch some full matches if we can't fully get there, and then we're going to go see you some more. So for me, what stands out is those qualities, those technical ability qualities that we talked about, and then how many times, that's why I watched the whole game, did they give the ball away? Kid gave the ball away maybe once, twice. The simple things did they do? Defensively, are they doing those things? Do they have that grit, that desire to track back? All of those things you look at when they score a goal. Now this is just from video, because a lot of it, the initial interest, then you go and see them. When they score a goal, do their teammates go up around them or is it just sort of this?
Yeah.
Why is that? Those kinds of things. Same thing when they're subbed out of the game. What's the reaction? I feel bad for so many kids, because I think if they don't realize that these showcases and things, that everything's being looked at and evaluated, and that sometimes so much ability, but then you just see that there's going to be a lot of issues. And so you're constantly looking for those things. Are they going to fit into that chemistry that you want to have, which is difficult. So for us, we get a lot of video. Sure, there's initial interest that we're going to want to see games. When we're at tournaments, we know how we want to play. We know specifically what we're looking for. All of those qualities that I just mentioned before. So, and then, right away, you just hope, is this a really good student? and you look and you're like, excellent, great, they are. So gives us an opportunity to have them come here to St. Lawrence and be part of things. So and be part of the pool that you're recruiting. So yeah, those are the things that we look for. They jump. I mean, when you know how you want to play, certain characters pop for you right away.
Okay, so what I usually do is I scan your website. I take all that information to lead to people to you, and I put it down in this description. If there's anything else you want me to do, feel free to send it my way. I'll gladly put it there. This is for you. But otherwise, I just want to thank you for today. This was fantastic. This was great. So I'm gonna order a St. Lawrence hat now, because I feel connected to the program. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get there for a game or something.
We gotta have you up. I'll tell you what. I saw you had a Field of Dreams thing. I'll tell you what. Sandy McAllister's beautiful pitch.
Okay,
it is gorgeous.
I always say they're like hidden gems, right? Like you show up to these places and you're like, the most beautiful thing is the soccer field, right? Like,
and that's what's great about NCAA. It's so unique to anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
It's like they are playing as pros for 4 years, and you're doing things. It's a unique experience. It's great. But I enjoyed this today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah. If I can help you in any way, please feel free to reach out.
Oh, I definitely will.